All right, I know how to work this stuff, I swear. Here comes the intro video. All right, folks, welcome to Get NIST, the series that breaks compliance out of the checkbox trap and turns it into a real security advantage. No fluff, no FUD, just practical advice to help you streamline the operations of your organization. I'm joined as always by my co-founder of Blacksmith InfoSec and co-host of Get NIST, Michael Zabarski. And today we have a special guest, Ian Richardson from Fox and Crow Group. I don't know how to pronounce your company's name, Ian, but
that's all right.
There we go.
It's a bird. It's a bird and a mammal. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, perfect. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce you to the audience?
Yeah. So thanks for having me on, guys. Ian Richardson. I had a MSP out of mid-Michigan that was a compliance regulated industry focused in healthcare for 16 years, sold it in 21. And throughout that journey went from being a guy who did sales as part of a necessary evil to kind of liking sales. And now I have an unhealthy relationship with how much I like to sell stuff. And these days I help other MSPs set up sales systems and find people like me to go sell things.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us today. Speaking of sales, that's really our topic of conversation today. We're calling it a fireside chat. None of us have fire. Well, you might actually have fire. It's you're up in the frozen tundras of Michigan right now. So.
Yeah, I should have a fireplace in here, but I don't.
Yeah. You like I said, at least with the weather right now, you need a fireplace. But so our topic today is really about sales and how you can improve your annual revenue, your monthly revenue, more importantly, your recurring revenue, not by going out and chasing new logos, but today we're going to focus more on what you can do with your current logos. And I was correctly admonished on Facebook the other day by somebody who, when I talked about this, talked about using your quarterly vCISO meetings. Hey, you should be in constant contact with your customers. Absolutely, you should, regardless of whether you're talking to them daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, once a decade, whatever that frequency is. Hopefully, it's not once a decade, but whatever the frequency is that you're talking to your customers, the best source of new revenue growth is from your existing customer base, not from net new logos. And so that's the premise of the conversation today. So Ian, you want to now that I've kind of spoiled your thunder here a little bit, you want to take things over?
Yeah. So with existing customers, we're always looking at the cross sell, right? Upsell. Hey, you sold someone something on top of something, but the cross sell is really about that penetration type of sale. And my background, as I alluded to, was healthcare IT. So I ate, lived, and breathed for 16 years, 45 CFR, Part 164, Subpart C, Sections 302 through 318, which is commonly known as the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA. And anyone who's been in the game for a while says, oh, HIPAA, that's kind of toothless, right? Like, and for a long time, it was a regulation in name only. And over the past 5 years, the last 5 years that I had my MSP, and certainly continued through today, that situation changed where there were fines going in. It wasn't just a hospital system. There were OCR audits, or Office of Civil Rights audits, that were coming down. And there's a large amount of common sense compliance regulations in that statute that when we would take a customer on back 2005, 2010, nobody had. So the regulation was written and there was no technical way in existence to perform that, right? If you wind back to 2010, something like EDR or a managed security operations center, that stuff didn't exist. Not in the small business space, not for any of us to be able to utilize. So as the tool set and offerings and service partners started coming out, we developed a routine need to be able to insert new technologies into existing customers to meet compliance needs, show some additional value, obviously capture new revenue streams for us, and security was a big part of that. And the process we used was a 3-part process, and those 3 steps were planning, return on investment, and execution. So
return on investment. I love that phrasing, right? Because at the end of the day, right, we're asking our end clients to spend more money on securing their business. And so when you're talking about return on investment, what do you mean return on investment? When you're asking me to spend money on something that is protection EDR, right? That's not. Where's that increasing my revenue as a small business, right? So, when you're having those kind of conversations, how do you broach the return on investment when you're talking about a managed SOC or an EDR solution that is historically viewed as a cost center?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you've identified the campaigns around a managed SOC or EDR or whatever the item that you're putting in, return on investment starts with a question and answer session with the customer. One of the things that happens with existing customers versus new logos is it's almost stale marriage syndrome. People forget to kind of date their customers in a little bit. So when you've got an account management thing, it can become routine, it can become run of the mill. You're not asking good questions. You're not having a session with questions to get some curiosity around there. And so we start off with a meeting where the goal isn't to make a sale. It's about sowing the seeds. People talk about hunters and farmers, okay? And there's an interesting misconception on good account management. A great farmer sells from their calendar, not their inbox. Someone who sells based off of emails coming in is an order taker. Someone who sells off of meetings that they're proactively and going out and finding, that's a farmer. So when you lead with these questions that are steeped in curiosity with the customer and they don't have an agenda and you're okay with no or a negative being an answer, that's good. So with that managed SOC, you start off with a bunch of questions around risk. And you have to tailor those questions based off of who's your point of contact. So if you're talking to an owner, a business owner, business owners only care about 3 things. We care about risk management, profit enhancement, and efficiency. Period. Nothing else matters. And profit enhancement is around growth, both top line and bottom line, right? So you could even make it simpler to say risk, growth, and efficiency. Where a COO is much more around operational smoothness. They care about day-to-day headaches going away. They care about things not becoming their problem. The other people you might be talking to in this, maybe your contact is CFO. CFO is going to care about return on investment. They care about reduction of hard costs and more value for dollars spent. So the money conversations with that CFO controller. IT is looking to offload certain tasks. A compliance officer is looking to literally check the boxes of reduction of risk because they don't want fines. That's their job. Make sure we're in compliance, make sure we're not getting fines. So who's in the room is a question. And you have to search through and do a discovery with this existing customer about how they feel around the topic that you're trying to sell. So with managed SOC, how do they feel about risks? And start off all the way high level. Like have you been paying attention to what's going on? Let's talk about your data. Let's make sure I have an accurate understanding of what type of data you have. Where's that data stored? What happens if it goes away? How long could it go away? What happens if it got exposed or exfiltrated? What happens if access is removed for a day, 2 days, a week? What does it do to your business with zero assumptions? Saying, I don't want to assume anything. When you map out this risk profile, you find the thing, and there's always a thing in every business that's exposed, that the offer would protect, that, oh my God, if this thing is impacted, it's a really big deal. Congratulations, that's your approach. Get them to monetize what that pain is, get them to what that potential pain is, get them to monetize how much that thing is worth, Is it your entire daily revenue stream? What is it? Put some numbers around it, and now you can craft a return on investment. This is a insurance item that costs you $10,000 a year to protect your $25 million revenue stream in this way. Now we're having a different conversation. And the return on investment is preservation of access to $25 million of revenue. Is that not worth $10,000 a year to protect, or whatever the price is?
Yeah, no, that's I can see Mike chomping at the bit here, so I'm going to
Well,
let him
no,
jump in.
yeah, no, yeah, no, it's interesting because one of the things you called out is the different roles, and those roles don't necessarily have to be the same people, right?
Mhm.
Like a lot of SMBs, that CFO that is very much money aware and doesn't want to spend money is also the person that's in charge of risk and understands risk and becomes that
Mhm.
compliance officer by default and has to balance those two things. So I want to call out that, again, it doesn't have to be different people. It might be the same person just wearing multiple hats.
Yeah, and a lot of them it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you said towards the beginning, Ian, is you were talking about how, HIPAA was a while back, going in and didn't have teeth, and it's gotten more and more teeth. One of the things that Jared and I have talked a number of times about is they're talking about updating HIPAA yet again, giving it more teeth, getting rid of all the addressable stuff, making it all required. One of the things that we've been discussing is, hey, is this actually going to happen under the Trump administration, because they're trying to deregulate a bunch of stuff. Looks like the plan is still to move forward with that in 2026. So that will be an interesting, again, one of my biggest frustrations with HIPAA is that it has teeth, but they're all after the fact. There's no pre-assessment. Hey, make sure you're HIPAA compliant, prove to HHS, OCR, etc., that you actually are. There's no external.
There's no third-party audit requirements. There's no.
And so my view is generally it's still not going far enough, because there's still a ton of doctors' offices and dentists' offices that have you sign the HIPAA paperwork, and that's where it stops, sadly.
I think what you'll see there, and this is just I'm just spitballing, right? But if I was gonna bet on regulation future, I would watch CMMC.
Yep.
And because if the DoD is able to quote unquote get away with it and force it upon industry, you'll start to see bleed through with updates where there might be third-party assessor, there might be the inability to participate. And what can the federal government can do two different things. They can apply fines, but they can also remove revenue streams.
Yep.
So any sort of federal funding through Medicare, and then down to the state level where they might do piggyback on Medicaid, reimbursements to providers, things of that nature, which will be hospital systems.
Yep.
That'll be where that squeeze point comes in on some sort of regulatory area. And then if they're able to do it through that, the insurance companies will pick it up and punish the rest of the market alongside.
Yep. Yeah, it's
definitely. And CMMC is definitely we saw a major leap forward last fall. We're going to see another one this coming fall. That is, even if they delay it, that is absolutely coming. We've already seen one of our MSP partners has an end client that is, without giving away too much of what that end client does, I'll just say they provide a specific widget that is only available. Like, they are the only producer in the world that creates that widget. And they sort of took we're the only ones who do this, and so therefore we don't have to do anything. And sure enough, their contract was at least threatened to not be renewed because they weren't CMMC compliant. And so they are scrambling now to become compliant with CMMC so they can maintain that contract, even though they are the only producer in the world of this specific widget. And so it is absolutely coming. I agree with you. I think whether HIPAA gets the refresh in 2026 or not, that is coming regardless of who's in the White House. And you know, I don't want to get political here, right? But whether it's Republican or Democrat, and broadly speaking, low regulation or high regulation, something like HIPAA, CMMC, these regulatory frameworks are going to come, whether you want them to or not. They are going to be here. They are here to stay. They are going to get bigger, badder, and stronger over time.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed.
So, Ian, you talked a little bit about the risk conversation with your clients and understanding what it is that they want to protect. And this is something that I've kind of banged a drum about for a while now, is that if you think about it, cybersecurity is no different than caveman security 10,000 years ago. At the end of the day, you have something that you want to protect. You have some way of protecting that. And it's whose sticks are sharper, yours or the person who's trying to take whatever it is that you want to protect. Now, the what has changed pretty significantly in 10,000 years, right? We're no longer worried about your shell necklace. We're worried about the 25 million records of patient data or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, we have something that we want to protect, and we need to create the layers of defense that keep that thing protected, right? So risk is certainly part of that conversation. But Mike, one of the things that you and I have talked about pretty regularly also is not just talking about the risk conversation, but also the growth conversation, right? So it's, and Ian sort of talked about this earlier, that CEOs care about risk. They also care pretty deeply about growth. And so how can IT and cybersecurity fit into the growth plans?
Yeah, I mean, part of it, and this has been something that I've kind of learned during my career in IT, has been basically making sure that the whole point of IT, and I think a lot of people generally understand this in concept, but not necessarily in execution. The whole point of IT is to make a business be cheaper, faster, and better. And without understanding what the business does, you can't do that. And so a lot of our MSP partners, a lot of MSPs in general that we talk to, they are really providing MSP services, but it's really a lot more technical services. They're not providing that full-fledged vCIO, hey, let's align IT to your business. Let's actually understand what your business is doing. Let's meet with the different departments, figure out how we can help them achieve their goals, right? And through those conversations, again, whether those conversations are around business risk or organizational risk outside of the scope of IT and cybersecurity, or whether they're a conversation around, hey, what are you trying to achieve over the next 30, 90, 180 days? And let us figure out how we can help you achieve that. And then when you come back, you can say, hey, did you achieve this? And did what we did help you achieve this? Cool. What are you trying to do over the next, again, 3, 6, 9, 12 months? That first of all, you kind of secure your relationship there, because if you're helping them drive their revenue, they're not going to leave you. It doesn't really matter how much you're charging them. They will see the value in that versus seeing the value in just fixing computers and delivering computers, etc. The other piece of that is, again, by doing that, you're going to be offering them different services, different solutions to enable their business and to make their business more secure. And so again, your revenue is going to go up by definition, because you're trying to help them create better business flows and better business processes, and just make their business generally faster and better.
Yeah, it's about building that strategic partnership, right? At the end of the day, if you are a vendor, you're not going to get very far. That relationship is going to stagnate because they see you as a commodity that can be replaced. If you are a partner, you're going to be embedded in their business and helping them grow, right? And this is the maybe the overall message here is if you're going to call it vCIO services, vCISO services, anything services, right? If you're a virtual officer of the company, that doesn't mean the emphasis is not on the word virtual, right? The emphasis is not on the word fractional. The emphasis is on the word officer. And as an officer of the company, whether that's 2 hours a week or 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week, or for those of us who are running our own businesses, 168 hours a week, because that's right, 24/7. At the end of the day, that officer emphasis means you need to be that strategic partner in helping them out. Ian, you look like you've got something to add here. So correct me. What did I get wrong?
No. There's nothing wrong around it. What I would say is one of the biggest challenges I see when I'm having conversations is around messaging. So the difference between risk management and growth enablement is a positioning statement. And I'll give a specific example to kind of paint the picture. So my background's healthcare. For a very long time, there has been a significant revenue stream for private practice, so a non-ambulatory, non-hospital-owned practice with insurance reimbursements called patient-centered medical home. And it's you doing certain things for visits. So if you're ever wondering why a doctor will take your blood pressure every single time you see them, and your SpO2 and your heart rate and weight and height, which doesn't really change that much, but if you went in 5 times, they're going to take it 5 times, even if it was over 5 weeks. That's generally from insurance regulation requirements to get paid a certain way. Patient-centered medical home, you document in a certain way, you have certain policies, procedures, you get more money from insurance. That's the basics of the scam. Okay? And yeah, I'm calling it that on purpose. And so there is very large reporting requirements to hold this sort of revenue stream. But if you get the revenue stream, you get a kicker. If you don't meet it, you have a subtraction. So you might be looking at a 5% gross revenue swing, 2.5% kicker, 2.5% reduction from not meeting these requirements. Now, doctors have to run through that. They have to generate all of these reports, etc. In today's modern age, there's LLMs out there, AI, where someone might pipe in an unencrypted massive amount of patient data into a public LLM to try to help them out with reporting, and suddenly you've created a data breach. And having a conversation around DLP, data level protection, how you can help do that. Not only are you doing risk mitigation, but if you have the figures on what's on there, hey, we're going to make sure that we enable successful achievement and the avoidance of fines. Yay, we've got a 5% revenue impact growth along with this risk avoidance. And it's about how you position it. It's about how you do that discovery. And I'll go back to something I said earlier. When we land customers, MSPs tend to stop dating their customer. Start having, like, if you're vCIO, vCISO, account management, TBR, QBR, I don't give a damn about the acronym. But if you're talking about how many tickets you closed and response time, you are literally talking about, that is the equivalent of a lawn care guy coming to you and saying, I cut 8,922 blades of grass today for you. Praise me. Nobody cares. Those aren't valuable metrics to anyone but you. But if you're talking to them about their business, how do they make money? What gets in the way of them making money? How does a regulation impact them? What are their challenges? Even if they're non-technology based, you're having an executive or officer level conversation where then you can start giving guidance and the return happens. Because when they say, well, yeah, it'd be a really big problem. Well, what's that? Oh, well, we'd have this, this, and this. What would that cost? And they share the number. Congratulations, you got it.
Yeah.
Like now you have everything you need to do to justify a cost because you say, that's a $5 million problem, guys. $5,000, I can fix that $5 million problem.
Yeah, and there's two other things with that, Ian, right? The first one is as you start having those conversations, that will generally get you in front of the right people. So if you're already at the business talking to an executive assistant or an admin, and you start asking those much more business-oriented questions, they're going to pull someone in that can actually answer them.
That's right.
And the other piece of that is what I've noticed is the further up you go in the company, the more easily people loosen the purse strings. Because from a director position, you may be like, oh, $10,000 is a ton of money, but the CFO is like, $10,000, why are you bothering me with this?
It's a rounding error.
Yeah, right. And so again, just getting the right people in the room to have those conversations, it just all goes a lot smoother.
That's right.
Yeah. The one time that people will care about your blades of grass metaphor is when they, like, if you're meeting with the wrong person, especially the office manager, whoever is your point of contact, and you talk about we closed or cut 8,922 blades of grass. Yeah, but Ian, you missed one, right? The one they're going to care about is the one that their CEO couldn't get to their email and for 14 minutes and the world ended and their ass got chewed out. And guess what? That's the one thing they're going to care. And so as soon as you bring up the metrics, you're not going to win yourself any friends by doing that. What you are going to do is give them the way. Hey, I'm so glad you mentioned the tickets,
right.
Ian. Let me talk to you about the tickets. There's this one ticket that you either haven't solved yet or that you breached your SLAs on, and now I'm going to try to claw back at.
And that guy's the wrong person to talk about it, right? Like the service desk manager is the person who handles that. So like one of the interesting things that I see, okay, is throughout this process of routine account management, just to bundle it under an umbrella, the people doing the account management are technologists and engineers, and that's wrong. The people who should be doing account management need to be sales individuals because this is a relational conversation and you pull in a high-level technical resource, whatever the vCIO, the sales engineer, etc., as needed to help solve the challenge. But you got to talk about the challenge first and understand the business case before you start shooting tech. When you put an engineer in the room, engineers tend to want to solve the problem right then. Like, oh yeah, well, we can solve it, blah, 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 blah. And if we were talking baseball, that's the equivalent of running across the pitcher's mound from first to third. You're out. And not only you're out, you're like, if you're in Boston or something like that, you probably go and get shanked in the parking lot. Like, what were you thinking, right? You have to round the bases in sales, and that's what these conversations are. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And engineers, and I will lump myself into this, we have a tendency to want to go way too fast. I know how we can solve that. Shut up. It doesn't matter. Because we're not at that part of the conversation yet. We got to get them to the part where they say, holy God, I need you to solve this for me. And holy God, you understand me so well. Because in that sort of an emotional state, the conversation is going to make sense. People don't buy rationally. Every single human buys emotionally and creates logic to justify it. That's psychology. That's science. And I'm not talking about selling FUD, okay? Like, don't do that. But you have to have an emotional place where someone feels like you understand, you have empathy for them, which creates a bubble of trust to where they will hear you on why this makes sense. And then when you're presenting the data underneath that, because they have been heard and they hear you, they go, yeah, that does make sense. Now they're invested. Then they can look at the data and go, and it makes financial sense. Perfect.
Yep.
My great choice is justified by this. So
yeah, no, you bring up an interesting point with FUD, right? Because at the end of the day, people do buy emotionally, and so I guess what there's the sort of the classic mindset of, well, if I just scare them enough, and I'm going to make them emotional, and they're going to want to buy from me, right? And I've gone on this soapbox before. If you're a good scary storyteller, you got pretty good ghost stories. Somebody's going to come along and tell a better scary story than you are. And so if you're R.L. Stine and you have Stephen King come along, they're going to take your business every single time. If you instead have built a relationship with your customers and you've built that based on trust and you're being the strategic partner, and somebody comes along and sells them a scary story, they're going to come along and say, hey, Ian, somebody just warned me about X, Y, and Z, or they said HIPAA is definitely getting teeth this year. Am I ready? Whatever that scary story is, hey, don't worry, I got you. But if you don't have that relationship, if you don't have that strategic partnership with your customer, when they get scared, they're not coming to you. You're just a vendor. You're replaceable. They're going to go with the person that they think is going to fix the problem, right? We're seeing that over and over again. With you brought up AI and LLMs and dumping data into LLMs. It's sort of the same thing right now. Everybody and their brother is interested in LLMs. Some think it's going to ruin humanity. Some think it's going to be the next greatest thing, and they're both right. Right at the end of the day, they are both correct. It is there are a lot of things that we're getting right about this, and a lot of things that we're getting wrong about this. And I wish my crystal ball was perfect and I could tell you exactly how this is all going to play out. We're certainly at sort of the peak of the hype cycle. Whether reality can live up to expectations is still TBD. There are some people who will tell me, "Oh, I can vibe code anything, and we don't need software vendors anymore." Okay, cool. Let me know how that works out for you, right?
Yeah.
I've seen the quality of code that comes out of Claude Code and Cursor and all these things. It's better than some of the interns that I've hired in the past, right? So like, there's good stuff but better than some of the interns that I've hired is not exactly a high bar, right? Like,
That's right.
So we're gonna get there, but it's gonna take us time, and so. But again, if you're not having those conversations, and if your clients aren't having those conversations, then guess what? The LLM becomes a paste bin where people are just dumping data, and you have to worry about data loss prevention. If you're instead having some conversations and saying, "Oh, you want to use LLMs and you want to use them responsibly? Great. Let me help you find a path forward with that." Right? We can bring that LLM in house. Here are the things. If you spend a little bit more on the LLM and you get the data protection agreement and you sign a BAA, that's a different conversation than if you're just dumping it into ChatGPT. Give people the healthy, and I say healthy here, the safe outlet where they can use these tools and experiment and explore. And you're gonna make your client successful. You're gonna make them look like a hero, and you're gonna avoid a lot of the shadow IT or shadow LLMs or whatever we want to think about. These things are real. So
yeah, and I think part of it is going back to your point of nothing ever changes, right? And I have this conversation with my kids as well. Like, they're like, "How did you know this was going to happen?" It's like, because nothing changes. Like, what you're going through, every single person has gone through since the beginning of time. But Jared clearly doesn't care about protecting his puka necklace. I still care about protecting my puka necklace. But you're gonna have those conversations, and you're gonna talk to them about, hey, you don't want to be the Department of No. You need to come up with a safe, sane solution for them to be able to accomplish what they want to do. Because if you go back to being Department of No, guess what? You're gonna shadow IT will grow, and they're gonna start using those LLMs and AI anyways, and you're gonna find yourself in a world of hurt.
Well, and that's the key thing, is that no matter what you do, the customer is going to find a way to gain some efficiency from new technology. When something is ubiquitous, AI is an easy example because it is the buzzword right now. When it's nonstop in the news, in this, in that, your customers read the news, they have conversations, they have colleagues who aren't your clients. That is coming in all the way down to the frontline level, where they're like, "This thing takes me so much freaking time, and I don't want to deal with it, and I'm going to use this thing to time save because my buddy taught me how over the weekend." Well, that's fine, except when it's starting to create these massive compliance holes or problems for IT. So you can either have those proactive conversations over and over and over again. What are the biggest time wasters? What's the most manual processes? Where are things at? And engage with your customer at that business level. Say, all right, like, if we start solving some of that, what's it gain? So that we can establish some budget around it, and let me go back to the lab and find some ways that we can help. If you don't do that, and you don't have that robust professional services arm that's part of this cross-selling campaign that we've been talking about, that's delivering these sorts of high business impact services to your customers, they're just going to go find someone who does. And that lack of consultative approach, that lack of ability to help them solve business challenges, relegates you to the lawn care guy who mows their lawn, or the IT people who help fix the printer when it breaks. And that makes you replaceable by a lower cost person or a more high value person. So we're in charge of defining the relationship.
Yep. Yeah, and you'll hear that often also when your customers are focused on, I'll call it the break fix type of model. Hey, I found somebody who can offer this cheaper. Okay, cool. I've got customers that pay me more, right? Like, at the end of the day, we're having two different conversations here. I'm talking about the value proposition, and if you're not seeing that value proposition, if all your honestly, you're probably better off losing some of those customers that are only looking at you as the cost center, right? Because if they're going to be looking for the lowest cost option, they're not going to be taking things, and forget about compliance for a second, they're not going to be taking security seriously enough. And if they're not taking security seriously enough, they become a liability for your organization. And so letting some of those less valuable customers go, trying to think of a polite way of putting it, right?
Yeah, well,
letting some of those customers that look at you as a commodity go, so you can focus on the ones that you can build a strategic relationship with. It's going to go a long way. And whether it's QBRs, SBRs, MDRs, whatever acronym you want to talk about here, quite frankly, even if it's just taking your client out to lunch once a month and just building a relationship. Oh, your client likes golf? Great. Learn how to play golf. Even I don't care if you hate golf. Like, find the things that your clients like to do and do those things, right? It's we hear this all the time. Where your customer is, there shalt you also be, right? It's and that's not just your customer is not the prospect. Your customers are the people who are already in the room with you. Don't let that relationship become that stale marriage, right? Take your partner out for a date. Continue to woo them, right? You want to build that relationship. The relationship building doesn't stop the moment you get married. The moment the ink is dry on the contract, the relationship building starts when the ink is dry on the contract.
I'll tell you what makes it a hell of a lot easier to have that situation where the CEO couldn't get their email for a half hour and it was a big problem for the operations manager. Well, yeah, that happened, but the month before that, they saved me a half a payroll hour on a manual process. And then the month before that, they gave me some visualizations that makes my job easier. And then the month before that, we had this. So this is just a blip. Whatever. They said it was this and the problem's fixed. I believe them. Shit happens.
Yeah.
Versus they only call you when stuff's going wrong. And now this thing went wrong and you didn't help. Well, that's the only comparison they have is the only time I talk to you is when something's going wrong. If you're having a whole bunch of conversations with people when stuff's going right and stuff's getting better, when invariably something goes wrong, shit happens. Don't worry about it. We're not concerned.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time here, I do want to make sure the audience knows we do have a Q&A available. So please, if you've got questions, go ahead and stick those into the Q&A or into the chat. In the meantime, Mike, anything you'd like to add here while we're waiting for any audience questions to come in?
No, I think we've kind of covered it pretty well. Again, just going through and building those relationships, just to reiterate, that is huge. And that's kind of huge across everything, right? It's huge across IT and security and compliance. And so you really can't go wrong by building the relationship with your client.
All right. Ian, we talked a little bit about relationship building, and I kind of joked about the golf analogy, but what are some of the ways that you have, when you were wearing your MSP hat, what are some of the things you did from a relationship building standpoint? Forget about the strategic growth standpoint. Like, how do you just build that relationship?
Yeah. Easy wins. Depending on organization size, like coffee and bagels are a simple thing. Offering straightforward in services about how their frontline staff can like keep their kids safe online, or see if they has their own personal information been exposed to something. What do they do if they get some sort of privacy breach notification in the email from some personal vendor? So focusing on their staff's personal items, that's a really, really easy, low tech type of thing. Again, a sales resource can deliver. And you go in at the start of the day, right? So it's a 7 to 8 or a 7:30 to 8 before the office opens, or an 8 to 9 before the office opens. Those are simple little easy things. They'll put the whole staff in an area. When I had owned mine, we would do them for 15-person companies and 100-person companies. And sometimes you do them in shifts, right? Hey, we'll have 30 here and then 30 here and 30 here. So those are easy, low cost, simple ways, high value, high impact. The taking people to lunch is a great one, especially when you get a bunch of clients in a particular vertical. Hey, would it be valuable if I set us up a lunch with your peers, got a bunch of folks, and if you have one, bring a friend. Congratulations. Now you got a room full of prospects. You just grab a room, buy lunch for everyone, and network. There's no education, there's no presentation for the people there. Oh, hey, great to meet you. Here's my card, etc. And they're the ones doing the selling for you. You're just there chatting and facilitating some things. Once you get to a more critical mass of revenue, start going where your customers are at. So supporting their industry trade associations as a sponsor, providing educational content there. If they're involved in not-for-profit items, find a way to sponsor that. So if they're doing a food drive, collect it, just go to the store, buy a whole bunch of canned food, bring it over by their office, drop it off with a little card from the company. Simple, easy things to do that. You can set up Google News alerts on all of your customer names. Whenever they're in the news, send them a congratulatory card. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yep.
But so those are kind of the above and beyond things. More importantly, just pick up the damn phone and call them. Hey, how you doing? How are the kids? How's stuff going? You said you were going on a vacation last time we talked. How'd that go? What'd you do? What was the best part? Should I go? Just have a conversation with them. Have a phone call with zero agenda outside of seeing how their day is, and then use your CRM to track those notes so you can build the conversation relationship over time. People don't like to fire people they like. Get your customer to like you.
Yeah, no, that's the phone call goes a huge, especially in 2026, right? Like nobody picks up the phone anymore, right? It's always a text message or an email or a smoke signal or whatever, right? It's like
that's right.
You don't get on the phone anymore, and so it goes a long way to get on the phone. Sending the congratulatory card, sending an actual piece of physical mail that is not spam. It's just hey, I saw this thing. That was exciting. Good for you guys. Like that goes a long way. That people like that and value some of those tangible experiences now in a way that they didn't before. So one thing has changed a little bit is we're doing a lot more remote work, and so if you're a doctor's office, it's pretty hard to. We haven't developed the tricorder yet, so you can't do remote medicine quite the same way. As, like I love it to be. Bless my wife, she tries to do everything by phone and including seeing the doctor. And the doctor's like, the cough for me just does not work over FaceTime. So you sometimes have to have the in-person stuff. But when you're dealing with a fully remote organization, you can still have those training sessions on how to keep your family safe. And you can just say, hey, by the way, we're doing this. Do a virtual happy hour. Send people a cocktail kit and do a virtual happy hour. To your point, Ian, know your customers, right? Know them intimately. Know what they like. Know what their kids like. Know what their spouses like. Know what, right? If you are building those relationships and you can say, you're not just calling Ian and saying, hey, Ian, how are you doing? How's the wife? Hey, Ian, how's Carrie? I saw, what's going on with her? Like, are you guys in Michigan or somewhere else right now? What's like understanding that your clients and their, not just their business, but their family, everything goes a long way.
It does. And it's not complicated work to do relationship management. It is work. It's hard, especially when you're not feeling motivated to do things, but it's not complicated. You don't have to make it complicated. Find a strategy, lay out a process, do the same process with everyone on the same sequence over and over and over again. And what that sequence, what that consistency presents to your customer is that, he always calls me. Every month he calls me. Usually it's the second week. Usually it's the second Tuesday. That's really reliable. I can count on that. And now you're building faith and trust.
So, real quick anecdote here. My father-in-law, speaking of calling, he's got one buddy that he calls every Tuesday, and they talk for exactly an hour, and it's like clockwork. And it doesn't matter go on family vacations, whatever. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, he's going to call his buddy, and they're going to talk and it cracks me up because I've listened to the conversations, or at least the tail end of the conversations before, where it's like 10:59. Okay, well, our hour's up. Have a nice day. Like, that's it. But it is religious. It's like clockwork. They know exactly that it's gonna happen, and it's predictable. And so getting that level of consistency with your customers, that they know you're gonna call them. And it doesn't need to be that consistent where 10 a.m. every Tuesday you're calling Ian and saying, "Hey, Ian, how's it going?" But being consistent and consistently showing up, like, that's the biggest part of any sort of relationship. It's just that consistency and showing up, right? It's parenting, right. It's relationship building, it's employees, it's your staff. That relationship, the showing up, that presence is critical.
That's right. That's all it takes.
All right. Well, I think we are just about out of time here. Any final thoughts, Ian, before we call it a day?
No, I mean, when you're pulling these together, I mentioned there's kind of a 3-part process: planning, return on investment, execution. Figure out where the opportunity is for planning and who it applies to most, kind of middle of the road and least. Map out your approach, have those conversations, and when you're executing, when you're approaching and trying to do this, do it on the customers who matter the least first. Because that's your training wheels, right? The first time you're trying to do one of these, go talk to those C grade customers that are low value and you don't expect to do things, and this might end up having them leave anyways because it's a weird conversation. Go have those conversations first, learn what you're doing, and then shift to the big opportunities. Go to your best customers once you've had 5 to 10 at bats and worked out all the kinks in your approach and how you do this.
Yeah, and the flip side of that, Ian, is, and Jared and I have seen this play out a couple of times where, actually one of Jared's friends came to us and he's like, "Hey, I'm really not happy with my MSP. I need some help." Or they're here when stuff breaks, they fix it, but like they're not doing anything for us. Can you guys help me find a new MSP? And we're like, sure. And so we made some introductions. They started having conversations. And when they went back to their MSP and had the conversation, their MSP basically said, "Oh, we do all this. We didn't think you wanted this. So we haven't talked to you about this." And so we just continued operating like as cheap as we can, as lean as we can for you, just on break fix. But like, yeah, we can absolutely do all this. And they end up actually retaining the relationship. But like, when you go to those C customers that you think aren't going to do anything, you may be surprised, and it may turn into a much bigger contract for you as well.
If you haven't been having the relationship management, folks who you've been writing off might have big plans or might have a lot more wallet to share. Yep. But neither side is communicating well.
Yep.
So.
Cool. Well, with that, thank you everybody for joining us today. Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It always is. Have a great day, everybody. And with that, we'll sign off.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Get this. Yeah, we're